Welcome to Friday Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage, and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for Friday Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And make sure to give us a 5-star review. Now your hosts, me, Alex Bear with Genius Juice, and Wade Yeti. All right, welcome to episode 51 of Friday Vibes. I'm your red-shirted, red pullover co-host, Alex Bear, for those that are watching, founder and co-founder and CEO of Genius Juice. And yep, we got the pointing down. It's everything is just like when we run the show, everything, opposite of what we think is going to happen actually happens, or whatever we think is going to happen, the opposite happens. It's the same with this. We're pointing this direction, but it's actually the other direction. My co-host, Wade Yeti over there, CPG specialist, Greensboro resident, and getting dark in the background, it looks like.
It is getting dark. It is getting dark. I was going to say, it only took me 51 episodes to figure out how to point, but I figured it out. Better late than never, right?
Exactly. It's the learning curve is pretty it's pretty steep here on Friday Vibes. So
it is.
Yeah, I like the plaid though. I love it. It's kind of the wintry look going on.
This is courtesy of my friends in Oceanside, California at the Black Plague Brewery. So yeah, good stuff.
Very good stuff. I got to hear more about your adventures with the breweries here in San Diego. And there's actually a lot of breweries in Torrance. So next time you're in this area, there's like Smog City and different IPA breweries. There's a big brewery culture. There's Kings Harbor Brewing right near me in Redondo Beach. So yeah, you got to come out here, man, and check it out.
Definitely. We're looking forward to another trip out there, hopefully in the spring or a little bit later.
Yep, for sure. Couple laundry list items to talk about. We are just overwhelmed in a really good way with a bunch of new sponsors that just flurry of emails that came in. They were not emails from Chile or New Zealand. These were emails from from Canada, from United States, from South America, all over the place. But I say Chile, New Zealand, because we're ranked top 50 podcasts in the country there for entrepreneurship. So we're really proud about that. Needless to say, I'm going off the rails here. A lot of great sponsors. Prana Snacks. They are a past sponsor and are a sponsor again. We got Daily Crunch today. Stay tuned because we're going to be giving away some prizes with Daily Crunch, which is a delicious nuts. I mean, they're just delicious nuts. How else can I describe them? They're just amazing. And they're crunchy, as they should be.
They're very crunchy.
Missy J's, Sweet Creek Foods, Machu Picchu Energy, another Daily Crunch, Dream Pops, Chubby Snacks. We have a lot of really great sponsors. Make sure if you'd like to sponsor our show, Friday Vibes 100, the number 100 at gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, we are booked through May right now for guests. But if you'd like to be on our show, how do they email, Wade?
Friday Vibes 100 at gmail.com. I just posted it in the chat.
There you go. All right. So also give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that good stuff. I don't know how Spotify does their ratings, but I'm sure it's something like 5 stars. We're at 72, 28 away from the road to 100. Okay. So let's get right into our guest. It's no script, just chat. So I don't even have an intro prepared for her. I just know her. She's a friend of mine. Met her a couple of years back. Wade knows her well. She has her In the Sauce podcast where she had both of us on as guests. She has a delicious in a pouch, freshly made sauce that like tastes like it's made in the kitchen because that's how it was really originally formulated. She's a veteran entrepreneur. She's had her business for 11 years. It's called Haven's Kitchen. She's the founder and CEO, Alison Cayne. How you doing? And you're on mute. I'm going to take you off mute. Actually, can I? No, you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I unmuted myself, and I'm thrilled to be here. Happy to see both of you. This is fun. Sometimes
welcome.
I like making dinner when y'all are doing this, and I just kind of, that's when I chime in. So I'm not making dinner tonight, but I'm here.
Cool. Is it? Are you ordering in?
No, I'm actually going out.
Oh, okay, nice. Cool.
Nice.
Right on.
Yeah, to a one-man comedy show. It's called like The Man in the Boat or something. I don't know. It's on my calendar. I hear it's really funny, and then I'm going out after. So
coincidentally, that makes two of us that are going to comedy shows tonight. I told Alex before the show started that we're going to have not a hard stop, but a relatively hard stop because I'm going to because I'm old, the early comedy show at 7:00 on our time. I'm seeing Eric Griffin, who's a comedian. He's a podcaster. He has a couple different podcasts, and he's about 2 blocks away. So I just got to get enough time to walk there I don't want to be the guy that gets heckled for coming in late. So
yes.
I already have enough that I can get heckled over with my bald head and whatnot. So I don't need to give him reason to pick on me. So I need to be in my seat before the show starts.
Yeah.
I actually went to Seinfeld. I went to the Seinfeld show in New York like a couple of weeks ago, and the poor guy, comes in late and he's like, excuse me. Like he's in the middle of the thing. And Jerry's just like, I'm sorry it was hard for you to get here. I guess you had so many other things going on. It couldn't just, anyway, it was very funny. I felt terrible.
Yeah. What's really one of the best, I would love to see Jerry Seinfeld. I can't believe you saw him live. I know he hits up a lot of New York venues. I remember seeing his Netflix special where he went back to his old digs where he first started comedy and stand-up. So he started in like New York, literally like in Manhattan, like right in the heart of New York, right?
Yeah, totally. He still does that. He goes, a lot of them do, a lot of the SNL guys too, like they come and they just practice their shows. Sometimes you can get like the inside skinny on like when they're coming, but generally they don't like to announce it. They like to just show up, rehearse new stuff, see what works, see what doesn't. It's kind of cool. I saw Michael Che once. Just a bunch, but it's good to laugh.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like when, you get kind of an inside peek at like, there's the televised version, right? Or the movie version of the comedian. And there's like the private on a stage, shrouded in darkness in front of like 50 to 100 people. And you kind of see how they can like let loose a lot more and like they can swear more and they're not censored as much. So I know that the Comedy and Magic Club, which I think, Wade, better since you're on the West Coast for a while. Jay Leno, every Sunday, he's not doing it right now because he suffered burns in the news, working on a car. So he's been taking some time off, but he's actually going to come back to the Comedy and Magic Club very soon. And he for years just rode in with one of his collectible cars because he loves collecting cars, vintage cars. And he would do a comedy show on a Sunday at Comedy and Magic Club. And he would rehearse when he used to host the Tonight Show. He would have cards, and he would just kind of go through each bit, and he'd be like, "Okay, the ones where people laugh the most, that's going to make it to the monologue on the air." And then when they didn't make it, he would like tear it up on stage. Like, no one laughed. He would tear it up and throw it over his shoulder. Like, I'm not going to use that one for the show. Speaking of comedy, you guys are going to comedy shows. I'm going to be doing a one-man comedy of my own. I'm going to go to the golf driving range after this.
Wow.
Embarrassing and funny. That's that. Anyone watching will get a lot of entertainment out of me hitting a golf ball.
Maybe you should live stream.
No, isn't that your thing?
It is my thing, but I've been kind of on a bad streak lately.
Mm.
I think I played last weekend, and I got the highest score that I've gotten. I think in highest is bad in golf,
Oh,
and I was off the tee. Like, like, I mean, we're going off tangents here, but like when you watch PGA and like the
no.
pros lining up and you see like a crowd of people like surrounding the pro. It's like the pro can't miss, right? Because if he goes left or right or
He
hits the
hits
ball, he's going to kill someone, right? I'm like, how do they deal with that pressure? And like the other day, I mean, if I was in the PGA and I did a hit, I would kill someone. It went straight left, line drive to like where a gallery would be. So I don't know, like one day I'm playing out of my mind, great. The next day I'm hitting the ball over someone's fence through their window. I guess that's golf. I'm never, it's really hard to be consistent in golf. I wanted to reset the room here and read some comments out, and I want to get into your story, Alison. A lot of people already know you and your story and your product, but we're going to pretend like they don't know. We want you to go through your story, but a couple comments just as a shout out. And again, we'll shout you out if you make comments here on Friday Vibes. We have Tom Malengo. Happy Friday, everyone. He is with Brand Jectory, who is a past and present sponsor. Dima Mararu, happy, and we got Friday the 13th. Speaking of bad luck on a golf course,
Good luck.
I think it's good luck, right? Friday the 13th.
Totally.
What else? Stephanie Hui, greetings, Alex Bear, Wayne Yenny, Alison Cayne. Happy Friday. Hank Watt, today's going to be linked in gold. Keep going here. Laurel Orley with Daily Crunch, our sponsor today. I think your sauces would go great on nuts, I feel. Like
we could use, I saw they're sprouted. I only eat sprouted nuts, by the way, enzymes, all of that. They'd be great on top of like something with our tahini sauce and then some crunchy nuts on top, or the coconut cashew.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. That's my favorite one. I love cashew dressings. They're just delicious. Mm-hmm. Billy Jackson with Jimbo's. I'm going to see him and Jason in a couple weeks. Actually, I'm driving down there in late January, and he's driving home. I hope I get served. There's parts of that San Diego freeways, man, that just the reception, everyone is in traffic watching Netflix or HBO Max, or YouTube. Do you ever notice that when you're driving, just the service has gotten worse because everyone's on their phones, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Yeah.
Michael Bonicato. I'm going to see him on the weekend at Fancy Food. I'll get into that. Happy Friday. I'm just going to speed through the rest of these so we can go back to get the spotlight back on Alison here. Gavin Conkle. Can't have a show without Gavin. Nothing better than seeing Wade twice in one day.
Got to have lunch with Gavin today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he made the trek up here. Right? Made the trek up here. He toured a store and did a store visit and treated me to lunch. So we had a good time.
Nice. Was there some Blackbird on the table?
There was not. We went to a local burger joint, and to quote Gavin, it was one of the best burgers he ever had. So I like must have made a decent recommendation. It's a local burger place that does a fantastic job. So it was good stuff.
Right on. Okay. If they have some veggie burgers there, I'll hit that up with you.
They do. It's one of Renee's favorite places. They actually have two different veggie burgers. I don't know what the one is. The one that Renee gets, I want to say, is mushroom and cauliflower.
Oh, cool.
And then there's another one that I can't think of. I want to say there's beans in it, but yeah, they have good vegetarian options. So Renee's a fan.
Cool. Sign me up. Let's go there next time I'm out there.
Right on.
Yeah, I visit Charlotte maybe once every 2 years because my aunts and uncle, they're out there. So they've been there for a long time. I don't want to date them, so long time. Martin Stoops, golf is 90% mental and the other 10% is physical. That is so true. It's literally mental. You could be a stick. You could be a 12-year-old kid with no muscle and still play well if your mind is there. Anyway, Alison, why don't you tell everyone about you, about your product? And I want to hear also, I'm going to add something new to this week's episode. What was one victory this week, and what was one loss this week?
Great. Well, I'll start with a little bit about me. I will try to not be as long-winded as I normally am, but long story short, I went back to get a master's degree in food systems and sustainability. When I was 38, I had 5 kids under 12 at the time, and wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but assumed that I would go back into public health, which is what I was doing before I had all my kids. As a part of that master's program, I had to get an internship. My internship ended up being as the head of the education station at the Union Square Green Market, where I was actually able magically to combine 20 years of teaching cooking classes in my house to friends with my new understanding of food systems, food insecurity, farm labor practices, et cetera. Decided I was going to open a little school, like a little kitchen where I could take people to the farmer's market and then bring them back to teach them how to cook the stuff that they learned about at the farmer's market. This was 2012. I ended up opening a cooking school in New York. It was a little bigger than what I planned, but it was a great time here. And it was a profitable brick and mortar cooking school all the way until the pandemic. And it was magical, like a really amazing place. Most of the revenue there was from private events and, launches. And I started to understand what CPG was. And we had, these sort of experiential launches for all of these brands, Care of and Juicero, if you remember them. We were Instacart's first party. Siggy had his first event at my cooking school. There was, all sorts of fun stuff. And basically, I sort of combined that with what I was seeing from my students, which was we don't need a whole meal kit. We just need really good flavor, and we need better for you options that get us feeling really good about ourselves in the kitchen. And so, knowing what I knew about sustainability, I was very clear that I wanted to put sauce that was as good for you as possible. So we figured out HPP, high pressure pasteurization, and make something that was as good, like you said, as you would eat in your house or make at home, but without the chopping, the blending, the roasting, the cleanup. Put them into squeezy pouches, created what I didn't know at the time, but now I'm fairly proud of, is a new category, which is, fresh sauce in the fridge, in a pouch. And now we're on to, making new things and building new categories and lots of exciting stuff in the pipeline. So I have 2 wins from the week, if that's allowed.
Sure.
One is that we got spins data and we are officially number 1 in our little mini category.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
110% growth in units, which is better than dollars because you can play with dollars, but units means units. So that was a big win. The other win is that we're already getting confirmations on our new product line that we're launching in Q4. So it's going to be a little bit easier, I think, of a launch because we have really great retailer partners who, thank you, who are excited to see what we do next. And I think it is a testament to the relationships that we've built with our retail partners that they are giving us verbal confirms without even, factory or, plant trials. So those are 2 wins. I would say loss is, was the word loss? Was that, or challenged? I don't know.
Or setback. Yeah, I was gonna say, you can use whatever makes you feel good. Whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah, I mean, the negative thing for me is that I think, we've probably talked about this, Alex, is, I really feel my wins, but I get over them pretty quickly. It's the losses that just cause me pain. And speaking of golf, my son plays on a pretty hardcore soccer team, and The whole thing for them is like, if you don't get the touch, you've got to let it go and move on to the next thing. If your brain is still like, oh, I missed that, you're just not in it for the next play. And I think for me, you know, when I talk to people about the company and you know, they ask me questions that are reasonable questions to ask, and we all have stuff we've got to do some splaining about, like, I feel those things so deeply, and they really mess with my stamina. And I think that's a fairly typical founder problem, maybe somewhat gendered as well. But it's the losses aren't so much like the loss. The loss is more like my response to the loss feels outsized, and I'd like to get over them quicker, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think we're all hard on ourselves, you know, as entrepreneurs. I'm really hard on myself because we are continuing to want to reach to bigger and bigger heights and accomplishments. So it seems like the wins are like expected almost, like, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to win, you know, because I got a great product, a great brand, and I need to win. But then the losses is like, it's like one step forward and the loss is like 2 steps back or 3 steps back. So I could see that challenges are very hard as an entrepreneur. So what's your strategy to like snap out of that and get through that? Like, what do you tell yourself?
I am a fierce guardian of my sleep. I find that it is just exponentially harder for me to rally, whether it's to, you know, merchandising teams, investors, my own team, if I'm not well slept. So I have to guard that. That means like, I don't go out to dinner 2 nights in a row. I don't, you know, drink wine certain nights. Like, I make sure that I'm creating the conditions for myself that lead to better sleep. I think part of that is also, you know, I'm very well hydrated. I exercise. I have very good friends. I think that one of my big assets or privileges, I guess, in this industry is how many people I feel genuinely connected to. I could call you crying and I feel like you would get it and you would understand. And we've never even met in person. And I feel like that is a huge gift. So some of it's working on myself. Some of it's just like calling a founder friend and just being like, can we talk about this thing? Because it's bugging me. And I know you're going to tell me whatever, but I just need to talk.
And Alex pulled up a question from Gavin, and I was just going to kind of steer things this way, Alison, as far as, you know, I know in my dealings with you and our conversations that you have a really small team. I mean, you're very, you know, very nimble and very, very small. So Gavin's asking about a right-hand person and, you know, the one you can rely on to get job done, or the one you call on when shit hits the fan. So what would you say as far as that goes?
Hey, Gavin. I think that's a great question. I think part of the founder complex a little bit is that there's a limit at where I don't call my right-hand person because I don't want to freak her out. You know what I mean? Like there's like founder stuff where I don't want to add to my anxiety that now I've freaked someone out and they're like, wait, why am I on this team? Or is she losing steam? Or what happens if, you know, if Allie burns out, where does that leave me? Like, so I don't know if that's real. My guess is that, you know, Courtney would say that is, I don't think that way. And you can, and I can rely on her 100%. But I don't want to rely on someone on my team to support me emotionally because I feel like it's a little bit of an unfair burden. And then it adds to my stress, if that makes sense. She can tell the minute that she sees my face. And sometimes, you know, we go into it and sometimes we don't. I also just hired an incredible head of strategy, a guy named Matt Merson.
Yeah.
The TOC Spacho, he was a Simulate. He's like a veteran.
Right.
And he's also like an incredible, he just is like, he's been there, done that, seen it. When I'm like, da, 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 you know, he's like, this is like nothing, you know? So that's also very helpful. Being at the level where I can attract that kind of talent is a big deal for me. So
I think a lot of what you just said, just in my opinion, just quantifies you as a leader, right? That you aren't, that you're taking that on yourself, and you know, you trust, you're obviously bringing in good people that you trust and to do their jobs, but at the same time, you know, at the end of the day, the ship stops with you, and you're not going to put that burden on your people. That doesn't necessarily lessen your expectations from them. It's just like, you're not necessarily pointing the finger saying, you're my guy, you're my girl, you're my person. If I'm not here, you got to carry the ball. You know, and you as a leader, that you're just setting the tone for your people. So kudos to you for that.
Thanks, Wade.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think like it's interesting, as you know, because we're both you know, founders. I'm a co-founder, you're a founder of a brand, and you've been running it for 11 years. I've been running Genius Juice for 9 years. There's an expectation from your team that you'll continue to be a leader, right? Like Wade just said, like having the inner strength to push through things. And so we're always battling as founders, how vulnerable do we need to be? You know, like I want to be vulnerable enough to show that I have emotions. I'm not just like, you know, some asshole at the top being like, okay, I'm going to bark orders and you do this, you do that. Like, I want to be empathetic to people and feel people's emotions and talk to them, but then I don't have the time to spend like a lot of time with each person, right? Because we're running a business, so we've got to be profitable, we got to grow, we have benchmarks to hit, we have investors, we have a plan. So I think there's always that middle ground of being empathetic, but also being like really tough at the same time. So like, I like that balance. And I think you want to, you know, you're inspiring you're inspiring your team, but also being tough enough to where they want to work harder and harder, and they want to support you, and they want to make the
and
goal
where
happen.
they feel like they've gotten on the right boat. My thing is like, I want them to know, you know, they need context to know when there's a problem, right? And they need to know like, all right, you got to like on that thing, because this is, but you know, you also, I mean, for me, it's really important that all of these people feel like psyched most of the time that they're riding this ridiculous thing with me. Like, we're starting something that did not exist. It's creating something out of thin air. You kind of have to be a little bit weird to want to do that in the first place. You know, I mean, we have these things that are like, I mean, I hope, I know, I think making people's lives better. So there's a mission to what we're doing, but it's not necessarily the most sane choice, right? So I don't want to compound them. I want them to look at me and be like, all right, I feel good about this. You know, I feel good that I'm here. I feel good about her. At least 80% of the time, you know, I feel like the 80-20 is like a good litmus.
Yeah. You got to be, you know, it's good that you have that balance, because you're also being honest with your team. And there's sometimes in meetings where things get uncomfortable. You know, like I've always been, I think you're similar to me in many ways, where like I want to please people as well, like sometimes in meetings.
That's how it
especially
goes.
my team. Yeah, I mean, we want people to be happy. We want people to feel good. But then I'm like, great companies were not built on everyone just feeling good all the time. There's going to be tough times, tough moments. There's going to be uncomfortable times. And honestly, to get out of your place of comfort is how you grow the brand and grow the business aggressively. So I've been like more raw with my team without being mean, like very raw, but inspiring. And I'm like, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, we're launching a new line as you are. You got to be aggressive. And it's good that you have that balance with your team. There is a question. Oh yeah, go ahead. There's a question.
I mean, the reality is like, whether we think we're being nice or whatever, people pick up on our vibe, right?
Yes.
So if you're in a meeting and something is awkward, it's not like anyone is like, oh, that was a great meeting. Everyone knows it's awkward. So I feel like as the leader, it's my responsibility. It's my job to say, hey, there's an elephant in the room right now. I'm not sure what exactly is going on. Here's my impression of the elephant, but let's all talk about it now before it kind of seeps into something weird later. And on
Right.
that note, did you ever see our user guides? We do these user guides of ourselves. So for anyone new joining the team, we have a document that they read about everyone. We all write our own, and it's basically like what I'm likely going to do that might annoy you, what irritates me, how there are things that, I'm very, for instance, like if I see someone's face and I'm very sort of hyper sensitive to facial expressions, so, and for the more sort of like introverted ops folks, they aren't necessarily as, gesticulating as me. So just having them read a little bit about me reading a little bit about them, we're able to have these discussions more easily, and it doesn't take us a year to figure each other out. I can send them to you. I'll send you mine.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at that. And I think, not to go too far into the weeds, but it leads me to, a guest we're going to have later on in April, Steve Black, the former president of Rouse's, and now he's kind of doing his own thing with consulting, and he has a book coming out, but it's the 5 rules. And I wear that. I still to this day wear this bracelet, and the 5 rules are: do your job, be kind, no surprises, key to what we're talking about here, no drama, and protect the brand. And I think, as a leader, those 5 rules, I think they kind of speak for themselves. But when you talk about no surprises, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about as far as being transparent and just being open with your team, right? I mean, you shouldn't paint. It's not healthy to paint a rosy picture if the sky's falling, right? I mean, if you're chipper, and it's important to be raw and to be real with your team so that they understand, they're only going to grow the more transparent and the more real you are with them, and it just makes you all row in the same direction, as opposed to, you can't preach rosy today and then come in tomorrow and there's tornadoes, right? I mean, they've got to have that same focus and same grasp on the business that you do. And I think just being real with your team just pays dividends, and it only helps them grow.
Yeah, it's also not kind to not help someone do better. Like, the reality is, I mean, for those of us who are trying to get better at our jobs, the only real way to do that is through feedback. And there's a way to give feedback that's a really kind way to give it. Like, listen, I know you've got this in you, but there's something going on with this thing, and it's not tracking. Let's dig in. Like, what's happening here?
Right.
I got a question for you, Alison, on how you handle a certain situation where you have someone on your team, let's say, and everyone has had this circumstance happen in the past or even the present, where they're talented, but they're not being engaged with the company. Like, they do kind of enough to just to kind of get by, but then they're not like passionate and engaged as like other team members are. But I do understand, as founders, we're going to have, no matter what, no one's ever going to have the same passion, the same energy, the same knowledge, the same aggressiveness as you. But you do have a standard, like I do, right? Yeah. Where you want someone that will be engaged and care about the brand. So how do you get someone who is kind of semi-checked out to get them engaged?
So, I don't know if you ever read Good to Great, if you follow Jim Collins, or, On the Bus, Off the Bus.
Read the first 20 pages, and I'm proud of that, because I have trouble. I like audio and I like podcasts, but I can't sit down and read a book unless I'm, but anyway, but it's a great book. Right? Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can listen to him talk about, you got a bus, whether you're talking about pushing a boulder up a mountain or driving a bus up a hill or whatever it is. The reality is, Alex, is like, we don't have the luxury of one single person on our team phoning it in. We don't. They might be talented. No, we can't expect everyone to have maybe we can't expect them to have the same level of, everything that we do, but we can expect them to have the same level as the other people on the team. And if someone's phoning it in, I interviewed Ellie, I forget her last name. she was Daniel at Cayne Bar's, chief of staff and head of she now works at Equilibra on his investment team. And she was saying, like, even for the first 10 years at Cayne, if there were people that didn't seem fully engaged, Daniel would say, you in, you out. Like, you could be talented at a big company where it's a 9-to-5 job. You're working at a startup. You're an owner of the company. Owners of the company have different standards and expectations, whether that's a 0.5% or a 40%, right? So to me, it's like, and I'll add, you're going to start to really resent this person. They're clearly in your head. You're clearly already getting there. And the sooner that you get them either committed to the bus, maybe there's something going on, you can be helpful, you can be understanding. But if there's not, they got to get off the bus, because they're taking up a seat and they're not pushing the boulder. And it's ultimately unfair to the rest of the team. Forget about you.
Exactly. I mean, we had I won't get into major details, but, 2 years ago, we had someone on our team, clearly talented. They come from a really rich background of working with different brands, big and small, from Coca-Cola to this to that. And
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything, because it's how they fit into, it's how they mesh with the culture of your team and how they add value to your product and your brand, and making sure that they're happy. And what ended up happening was, I could tell from six months in, I'm like, this person's not engaged. And like, suddenly there starts to be, like you said, tension. What I didn't do is I didn't do the on the off the bus conversation, because what's really interesting about my personality is I'm not always I really don't like confrontations. I try to slide by those and be more passive, like talk about it, but not be confrontational. But I think to save both sides, your team, the person on your team, and also the founder, to save a lot of heartache and also a lot of stress and resentment, is just to come out earlier with it. So that's really good advice. And, it ended up, a year and a half in, the person started to mentally check out, and it actually hurt our brand temporarily. Things were missed. There were mistakes. It cost the company money. So it's always good to, recognize it early on.
I mean, it's also easier said than done, right? So I'm giving you advice that, believe me, I've known almost within the first week if something's going to work. And
you just feel
then I want to make sure that I this and I that. But, he also said, hire slow, fire fast. And it's not a harsh thing. It's kind of, to me, it's almost like a romantic relationship. Like, if it's not working for you, it's not working for them. And you're just in the position of leadership and power where you're going to be the one to call it,
Definitely.
Right now, I think we're good. Let's try to figure out a really nice way for you to segue out, because you're not going to love this conversation, but you're clearly not happy.
I know we had a couple of questions here. I was going to go back to this one from Gavin. We had up earlier, but we didn't really talk about it. Alison, as far as a win standing out most to you, was it your first win or an account you felt resonated most with you? Is there something that kind of comes to mind there?
I mean, I would say becoming a global brand at Whole Foods in the first week of the pandemic was a very interesting win. I think partly because I was also seeing sort of the end of the brick and mortar. It was also just like a crazy emotional time just in general. And that was a big moment. I would say, these recent ones where we're seeing the work that we've done with our partners come to fruition, like I said, with this launch that we're having at the end of the year. That feels like
can you give us any clues on the type of product, or is it completely under wraps at this point?
I know, but I'm not going to tell.
Yeah, it's under wraps for you, Alex, but Wade might tell it to you later.
Okay. Well, I'll find out eventually once I
It makes a lot of sense for the brand. It's I heard you either wrote something or you were talking to someone. I think it was a LinkedIn post, and basically you're like, 2023, like, get profitable, get your margins in order, get your operating budget tight, let people go if they're not adding value, and only innovate if it really, really makes sense. And if you're doing it the right way. I'm paraphrasing you, but I feel like that's kind of what you wrote.
That's exactly hit the nail on the head.
Check. Like, I thought, I was like, yeah. So this innovation makes a lot of sense. It's leveraging all of the work that we've done over the last couple of years with, the fresh sauces. And I think it's going to be really fun.
I think to your point, a lot of what you're seeing now, though, Alison, is a result of your hard work. And it's something we talk about on the show all the time is if I put my buyer's hat on for a minute and I say, and you have a broker come to me, and I tell them I want home runs, right? I want you to come to me with your big bets, and you come to me, and I know Sean Berg's on here as broker. He's probably going to chime in here, but you come to me and you give me let's call it a bunt or a sacrifice fly or a single. If I tell you I want a home run and you come to me and say this is a home run, but it's not. But so my point is you're only as good as your word. So I think what you're experiencing now is that you've proven yourself, right, in the category you're in. So your accounts, your relationships that you've built are more inclined to take your word for it because you have given them success and you have shown that you are a person of your word. So I think that's all part of this journey, is that the more transparent you are and the more real you are. If you go to an account and you've got 6 SKUs and you know in your heart that 3 of them make sense, 6 don't. And Alex is going through this right now, and I'm sure he can contribute to this as far as, go with your top 3, right? Don't try and sell them 6 if you know there's one that's going to do the job, right? I mean, because that's what your buyer or your account is going to feed on. If you sell me 3 and 2 of them are garbage, I'm not going to care about the one that's successful. I'm going to remember the 2 that you sold me that I didn't need. And I think, again, that's what I think you're seeing right now. And I think, as you move forward, I challenge anybody that's listening or watching right now is to have that mindset is, you don't need, I say this all the time, it's quality, not quantity, right?
Totally.
It's inch wide, mile deep. You can get more turns out of 1 SKU if it's the right SKU at the right account than you can out of 6 SKUs that aren't the right SKUs. So.
Yeah, I want to jump into and just want to remind everyone that what I really respect about what you've done, Alison, is that it's 11 years. It's 11 years. I know for part of that was the cooking school, and then you released the sauces. But basically, you've been in business down this path for 11 years, and you've already seen success, and now you're hitting a next stride of new product line, more national launches, more recognizability with the brand. But everything happens, like when you build a great company and a great product, which it is a great product, it takes so much time. Like everything moves incredibly slow, and you're incredibly patient. And that success, as Wade said, it's already happened and it's happening more. So I want to remind everyone that what you read on LinkedIn where core water, I know this is from a couple of years ago, but core water sold in 5 years, and for 500 million, and there's other acquisitions they happen, but they're not realistic, and they're like Bigfoot rare. I mean, maybe 1 in 1,000 brands are going to build your brand up, raise money, and within 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to sell. And now, especially with this environment, the model that you have, which you've been standing by for years, is now the model that every brand is going to, which is be profitable, like everything we said. So
it is funny because I remember talking to investors a couple of years ago, and I think you guys both know me. I want everyone to win. I really do. I like playing with everyone. I think everyone deserves everything. Like I don't, it's not like I have any sour grapes, but I will say, that being said, I remember I spoke to a bunch of different investors who were just like, we only look at companies that have 40% D2C, and you're too heavy in wholesale distribution. And I was like, we're a refrigerated, like 120-day shelf life. Like, you don't want us to be selling this direct. I mean, we'll do it for like the pandemic little chunk, but like ultimately this is not a D2C product. And I lost a lot of interest because we were almost like too much of a Luddite. Now I feel like having these retailer relationships, we know how to work in retail. We know what is required as a partner. We, don't come at it like you're so lucky to have us because we sell so many in this zip code. And there's a genuine humility and like partnership from us. And that has become, now it's like, oh, you have all these great retailer relationships. And I'm just kind of like, I wish it just didn't go, it wasn't so erratic, just like build a good business with good fundamentals and the channel that makes sense for your business. And then the other things will come, if you have the right team and you're putting in the right stuff. And again, I'm talking to myself because, sometimes it feels harder than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of freedom in running the business that way, which is you're not tethered to hitting certain numbers or having you're tethered to your goals, but you're not tethered to the goals of a VC or private equity where you have to be this percentage breakdown. It has to be this margin. Right. And it becomes a lot harder to run the brand the way you want to run. And I think like to be net profitable, to have EBITDA, to have growth over time, to have solid velocity, to have a well-respected product that's actually doing better for people in the market, making people healthier. There's a lot of power in that. And there are brands, I mean, huge example, GT Kombucha, $10,000 loan. I know it's a really extreme example, $10,000 loan to start. Never took any VC money. And again, sometimes it's okay to take VC money. I'm not against that. I've taken investor money and more angel investors and family offices, but this is a classic example, or great example, GT, which is no investment money, built it over 20 years, and he created a category, and the category has grown. So there's also like along the way, to get off on another tangent, there needs to be some luck somewhere. Like something.
My God. Yeah.
Right. There need, a lot of hard work plus luck, equals, persistence plus luck equals opportunity, where the trend also needs to take off. And I wanted to ask you, because I know there's comedy shows coming up here. The category, you mentioned it earlier, like you said our tiny category, right?
Yeah.
But salad dressing is a category. I know it's mostly shelf stable.
Yeah,
but refrigerated is a niche.
We're in refrigerated condiments / other, just to be clear.
Condiments / other.
Category is little. Refrigerated condiments / other. So it's little, but we're leading it and we're generating some good stuff.
But in my mind, I'm like, a lot of condiments and things are refrigerated. It's heading in that fresher direction to me. Like Urban Remedy is doing that now with like fresh prepared everything, refrigerated bars. Midday Squares is refrigerated. So like, are you feeling like now the consumers are coming over and being like, I want better, I want higher quality, I'm going to buy yours instead of Lighthouse or something? Like, is that happening?
I'm going to give you the honest answer. I think the natural consumer is. I think that the way that the grocery stores are built and structured make that viable. I think that to be $100 million brand in fresh is
Very tough.
very, very, very tough. So I do think consumers are looking for it. I think if you're thinking about, at the end of the day, whether it's Kroger or Publix or even Walmart, with 25% of the grocery share in this country, which is ultimately kind of the trajectory that we're all sort of planning on having viable for us if we're going to have the type of business and potential exit, et cetera. Fresh is probably, not going to do it alone.
Right.
That said, there is what I believe is that natural consumer is, and this is from my food studies work, you can go back to like the sugar and the spice trade literally in to 1600s, right? The natural consumer who is ahead of the trends is the sort of guide for regular sort of mainstream grocery consumption. So it is very important to build a relationship with that consumer, and in the retailers a la Fresh Market that support that consumer. And I don't think that conventional or mass is anywhere close to being able to support those products, that consumer, that supply chain, any of it just yet. I think that they were trying before the pandemic. They all had strategic plans. All of that got thrown out the window when their job became keep people alive, literally, like they became overnight healthcare workers. And so whatever that is now 5 years away. In my opinion, just understanding the ecosystem.
Well, we could go on that forever, but I think you're 100% correct with, obviously today now your consumer is natural specialty. There's no question about that. And I think, the conventional side, which my background prior to the last 5 years or so, the issue that you run into in your category, and for that matter, pretty much any refrigerated category, even you could almost argue Alex's to some extent, definitely GT's you showed. When you get in the conventional side, they're not as willing. There's a lot of walls set up, right? As far as both of your categories in a conventional world can be considered produce. And I mean, that's just reality because of whether it's an old school mindset that it's refrigerated, it's not milk and eggs and butter and cheese, so I can't have it. So then automatically that mindset is to produce it, because if you look at conventional, a lot of kombucha's sets are in produce. So a lot of the fermented foods, kimchi, those things are in produce. So I think to be successful in the conventional channel, to your point, and I've said this all along, you would see a product introduced in a Cayne and a Unify, right, on the conventional side. It'd come in through that channel, and it at some point, it would, if it was successful, it would be so successful that it would make its way into the conventional DC, at which point then you're seeing it in the Walmarts, the Targets, the Publix, all those places. So then it's not especially natural organic per se anymore. Now it's a conventional item, and that brings a whole nother thought process up where I, as a retailer, have to think about, well, Walmart has it and they're $3.99 and I'm $5.99, and then I have to play that game as, can I still carry it, or do I have to look at the next big natural organic specialty and be ahead of the curve to bring in those items that Walmart isn't carrying, that I can be competitive or innovative or trendy on and go that way. So it's really just a balancing act on that conventional side. And now, knowing what I know now and my experience now, if you put me back in Ohio at my chain in Ohio, or Louisiana for that matter, I think one of my starting points would be to grab the merchandising teams in a room and say, okay, guys, it's not us versus us, right? You know, it's not produce versus dairy versus deli CMS. You know, it's where are we going to sell this product at, and where's the consumer going to look for it at? And I think the natural organic specialty channel mindset retail gets that, or they're more likely to get it than the conventional side is, at least at this point. And I hope in time that changes. But today, now that's my feeling.
And I would add to that, because picking up on what you said, is part of our challenge is we have, hundreds of thousands of people that are looking for us, and they can't find us because we're in different parts of the store, because some people have like a plant-based set in dairy. Some people have us in produce. Some people have a quick dinner tonight set. There's no home. We're in catch-all sets in every place we are, for the most part. So if we're trying to have I'm not assuming a consumer is going to hunt a 20,000 foot store looking for my chimichurri. I need to be sort of in the same spot everywhere they go, where they're conditioned to finding me. That is very unlikely to happen with my current product outside of natural in the next 5 years. And I personally am not. I would prefer to not wait that long, for like that kind of momentum. So there's a consumer mindset, there's an infrastructure issue, there's logistics. But yeah, do they want better for you? Do they want fresh? Does the mainstream consumer have the same needs for their family that the natural consumer does? 100%. And I think they very much resent being referred to as like, mainstream and in the middle, right? But it's just the way that the grocery market has developed over, the last 100 years.
Right. Exactly. And I know we're running low on time. Like, as Wade is talking, as Alison is talking, it's just like, there's like 40 different things that I can say about this. You probably even saw me like even mouthing, like thinking of like all the things in my head that are like coming through I'm like, okay. But I will say a couple very high level items here. Your product wins on taste, freshness, taste, premiumness. When you have a competitor, condiment, dressing, they're processed more, right? They're heated, pasteurized, preservatives. Sugar. It's just not, it's not going to taste as good, bar none, and it's not going to be fresh at all. It's going to be heat treated and maybe could be sitting on a shelf for a year, right, before someone buys it, or in a warehouse. So I think it's a double-edged sword, where placement-wise, you want to be next to the other condiments and dressings, because especially in conventional, because the person that is going to buy something next to yours, they may gravitate over to you. But then the challenge is that they're going to see something at $3.99, yours right. at $7.99, and there can't be an Alison, Cayne, and every Fresh Market or Sprouts or Whole Foods to explain here's why ours is superior and fresher, because we don't heat it, and HP, you have to go through the whole explanation and education, which you can't do. The other thing that I'm seeing in general, because you're right, like what you said, to me, it's like 3 to 5 years away. Mm-hmm. Products that are now looking to surge, refrigerated wellness shots, which they go in so many different sections. They're in grab and go. They're in the supplement section. They're in the produce set, in conventional. They're hard to find. You have issues there, but I'm also seeing logistical issues with like midday squares.
Oh,
People
yeah.
can't find it. They're like, where do you put a refrigerated chocolate bar? Does it go in the chocolate kind of dessert set? Does it go in the energy bar set? Does it go in the drink set at the very top where the shelf is shorter? So I think I'm seeing brands that are struggling, that are refrigerated. Where do they go, and how do people find it? And I feel like the reason why Whole Foods and even Sprouts is like your jam and our jam is because they have special areas for it, for premium products that are totally different from the shelf stable ones. So they do it in a different way to get people to notice it. more and better.
And I think, what Ellie Truesdell said on my podcast a couple weeks ago is the Whole Foods or Sprouts or Fresh Market consumer is walking into that store with an expectation of a certain level of experience, a certain level of service, of discovery, of quality, and of what they're going to pay. And they're not walking into Target quite the same way. So my whole goal is I would like to have a product for all of the different channels that really, like I said very early on, like that works for that channel. Like, why do we need to have just one thing? You look at Ralph Lauren, there's Double RL, there's Polo, there's Lauren, there's Ralph, there's Lauren's Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why we can build something fairly similar where we want to have a product that works on Amazon. I want to have a product that works because I want this brand to be genuinely accessible to everyone. And at the current state, it's not, if I'm being honest,
Yeah. I think it might be a little preview to your fourth quarter innovation. I'll leave it at that.
Maybe.
So let's
in my cartoon, I look like I'm I look very glamorous in the cartoon of Friday Vibes. So, and I look like I have a secret. So that's
we won't tell.
It was foreshadowing. So let's go to our next. I know we have comedy shows coming up. I need to shank my balls into someone's backyard here as well from my side. It does happen, unfortunately. So let's go to stuff we love.
I'm prepared this week. Alex, I am prepared this week.
Okay, you go ahead.
Partly because I know I'm on a time crunch, but partly because I was prepared. So one of these, I'll just start with our sponsor, who we're going to get into in a minute. But this isn't new, right? I've got Alison, Daily Crunch, the Sprouted, right? I've got the Nashville Hot, which I'm a big fan of. And I still have, I think this is my last bag of the seasonal spiced chai pear. So I've got those. A sponsor coming up, and Alex, I know you're a fan, and I might be stealing your thunder. I'm not sure. But Missy J's.
I love those. Those are so damn.
I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder, but there's very little left in this package. I've also got the peanuts. And we ate the cookie mix. I don't know if you made the cookie mix. That's gone, so I don't have that to show. And I've got one last thing, and this one I was very skeptical about until I opened the bag because I'm like, it's gimmicky, right? Air fried kettle potato chips, and so I was expecting, they just rebranded. Everybody has an air fryer. It's a completely different product. Texture's completely different. The fat's better. And I'm a believer now. So I had to bring this bag home today because last week when I brought a bag home, that one got crushed really fast. So air fried kettle, big fan of those. That's what I've got.
Mine's really quick because I know we have a few minutes here. I was also like, this is not a conflict of interest with Haven's Kitchen. I wanted to make sure of that, but it's something that can complement what you're doing is hummus. So
he's my friend, and we have the shared production place. Just FYI.
Cool.
We were in the incubator together. Chris is amazing. I love.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
Ithaca hummus.
Yep. Yeah. This is I think the best hummus I've ever had in my life. I swear by this. When they launched, they were in Gelson's. They're still in Gelson's, but that's where I had to go to get this, which is about 20 minutes from my house. And then they launched nationwide in Whole Foods and in Sprouts about a year and a half ago, and now I can get it very easily. This is my favorite one, lemon garlic hummus. It's taste hummus for the first time, even if you've had it 1,000 times. That's Chris Kirby's tagline. Ithaca hummus. I was pronouncing it Ithaca for a year before I realized it's Ithaca, not Ithaca. Ithaca. That's a giveaway. I'm not from the East Coast, right?
Started at the Ithaca Farmers Market. Ithaca, New York, or no?
Ithaca, New York. Yep. Okay, so let's go to you, Allison. Stuff you love. What's in your pantry or fridge that you like?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I shout out to my friend Matt Weiss from Rind. I've been eating these like chocolate covered coconut chips since he brought them to me. Loving them. I didn't realize I was supposed to like pull things up, but I could walk over to the thing. Love them. What else am I loving? So many things. Have you guys had Bjorn corn? Has that reached you yet? It's like,
is that like the corn nuts?
No, it's just popcorn, but it's nutritional yeast. It tastes like it's cheesy.
Right.
It's super delish. Love it. I love sweet nothings. They're like a smoothie in a cup. Love Jake obviously, but also just love the product.
Yep, amazing product.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big snacker, so I could go on, but those are three that I'm very into lately.
All right, so let's go into our next segment, which is called Friday Freebies.
Friday Freebies.
A lot of graphics. All right, Wade, let's go to our sponsor for this week.
I was going to say I'm queued up. I could probably do this without the spreadsheet, but I'm going to use the spreadsheet so I don't mess it up because Laurel's live here now, so I don't want to mess this up. I already showed you the product, Daily Crunch. Laura Orley, who I had the pleasure of and just fortunate to work with as part of the SKU group, the product accelerator. Back, I don't know, gosh, Laurel's been 2 years ago now, but we're giving away the 2 flavors I showed you, actually 3 bags of the chai spice pear and 3 bags of the Nashville hot, which I guarantee you're going to go back and buy both of those again because they're that good. But Daily Crunch is a woman-owned, mission-driven company that makes uniquely crunchy sprouted nut snacks. They taste as good as they make you feel. They have a patent pending process. Commitment to clean ingredients. Daily Crunch transforms ordinary nuts into uniquely crunchy, easier to digest, more nutrient-dense nut snacks. You can eat Daily Crunch on its own, or as Alison kind of alluded to, step up your flavor game with adding to your yogurt, salads, and so much more. So Daily Crunch, links in the comments. Laurel's here. Just great product, great people, great brand. We got to get a question, and then we got to do V-driven as well, Alex. So
yes.
Maybe if we can think of the question, and then we can hit V-driven.
Sure. And just want to mention, I'm not sure if I just zoned out for a second, but the prize, did you mention the prize?
Yep. 3 flavors of the 3 bags of each of the 2 flavors I showed, the chai spice pear and the Nashville hot.
And I'll handle V-driven very, very quickly. They are our long-term permanent, 2023 permanents thus far sponsor. They are a sales organization first and foremost. They help brands scale and grow. They have relationships with different buyers. They have a great sales force. They know people in high positions that can make decisions to bring in items to their stores. They also help with trade deduction, trade spend management. They fight deductions, which, as you know, Alison can eat brands alive if they're not watching that closely. Our good friends at Unify and Cayne over there. Yep. Thumbs up. Fingers up. Which finger? We don't know. So anyway, make sure to go to V-driven. It's V-driven, V as in Victor, driven.com. And then email Luke Abbott. He is the CEO, luke.abbott, ABBOTT, at vdriven.com. Make sure to reach out to them. Okay, so our question, Alison, usually, you've seen the show before. We come up with something that was mentioned during this episode. It could be totally random, something that's cryptic, something that's hard, because these are really valuable prizes. So I know we're putting you on the spot. If you don't have one, we'll think of one. But can you think of something that we mentioned that's challenging to answer? Whoever answers it will win this week's prize from Daily Crunch.
Wow.
It's hard.
Okay, I'm in between a couple. One is the name of the comedian that Wade mentioned.
That's a good one.
Or can people like rewind or something? I don't know. Is that?
Well, if they don't have enough time to rewind, they got to
Okay.
answer pretty quick here.
So that's one. And then other is one of the states that Wade mentioned that he lived in the past.
I'm gonna go with the first question. I think let's go with that because the second one is too easy because he's mentioned it in every episode.
And I'm gonna run. I texted you the answer, Alex. So I'm gonna run so I'm not heckled. So thank you both. Alex, I'll see you next week. Allison, we'll talk soon.
You got it. My phone died, by the way.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care, Wade. Enjoy the show. All right, so Allison is my now current new co-host for now. She's filling in for Wade.
To Friday Vibes. Yeah.
Welcome. So I'll send the contract over right after this. It's a one pager, one liner sign with a happy face, and you're in.
Amazing.
All right, so we're going to go with the first question. Who is the comedian that he's going to see? I remember the last name. I can't remember the first name, but I know someone knows it. Who is Wade seeing? Which comedian? What is his or her name? And you will win a Daily Crunch, 6 bags, I believe. Yeah. All right. There's usually kind of a delay, Allison, like people are answering and then it just kind of pours in all at once. That's kind of the StreamYard LinkedIn Live delay. So that is the question.
Did Wade text you the answer? Like, because I don't remember.
My phone died. So, but I do remember the last name. So
you do? Okay.
I remember the first name. I remember it was pretty basic. I remember the last name. So I think we should be good. I mean, if someone says it, I should be like, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Either that or we can just, give free everything nuts to everyone.
That's it. Yep.
That's it.
Eric Griffin. So I knew it was Griffin because I was thinking of Family Guy. Like Peter Griffin. Yeah. And then I remembered it was like Jake or Eric or Mike or was some basic name. So Eric Griffin is the answer. Gavin, who's been our winner many, many times, probably too many times, but we love you anyway. Email FridayVibes100@gmail.com and you can claim your prize with Laura Early, our sponsor this week for Daily Crunch. So Allison, if someone wants to reach you, is it just LinkedIn? And then if your website, I posted earlier, why don't you go through some of those deets for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you want to reach me, you can DM me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. If you want to check out Haven's Kitchen, you can go to havenskitchen.com. We have 500 plus recipes with shopping lists that you can text to yourself while you're in the store, just to make dinner easy, because it's not just about the product. It's about really helping home cooks feel great about cooking. They're also linked to the QR.
7,000 reviews too on your website. Yeah. That's insane. 7,000 reviews is a lot.
Well, we did that. We don't have a big D2C channel, but you can syndicate your social nature reviews onto your website, which is something I highly recommend everyone does if they use social nature.
I did not know that. That's still a lot. I mean, to get 7,000 people to review that's insane. That means a lot of people are buying your product.
High stars. Yes.
Yeah, 4.5 stars out of 5 looks like, or 5.
And the negative ones were like, I can't find you in the store.
There's the one thing I've learned before we conclude this is that people are always there's going to be people that always complain when it's not your fault. The biggest complaint we get for D2C, oh, the FedEx guy delivered it to the wrong house, or the box is all beat up and it's damaged. It's like, well, that's FedEx. That's not Genius Juice. But they associate everything with Genius Juice, right? It's always our fault. It's always our fault. Yep. So
it is.
All right.
It's okay.
So that is episode 51 with our special guest and now co-host right now, Alison Cayne, the founder and CEO of Haven's Kitchen. Alison, always good to catch up with you, and congratulations on all your success. And I really admire everything you've done just in the game, and you keep going strong. So kudos.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. Always great talking to you. And, this was really fun, and I'm in a really good mood to go to comedy. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. I'll send you some of my golfing videos that you'll laugh even harder than the comedy show, I'm sure. Thanks, everyone. Take good care. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Take care.
Thanks.